Hello, this is Justin Williams with the Wolfpacker Podcast. I'm joined today, as always, by Matt Carter, editor of the wolfpacker.com and fellow co-host. Got a good show lined up for you today. Going to start with upon further review of NC State's win over Wake Forest. NC State jumps up to number 16 in the latest college football playoff poll we will discuss. And we'll also give you a little preview for the upcoming matchup against Boston College this Saturday, the last home game for the Wolfpack. So it'll be senior day, a lot of interest in that game, and hopefully, knock on wood, an easy W for the Wolfpack. That's at least what Vegas seems to indicate. And lastly, if we have some time, we might mention NC State men's basketball's debut. Nice win over Austin Peay. I liked some things that I saw. I'd like to talk about it. So let's jump right into it. But before we do, some quick reminders for the listeners and viewers at home. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to us on podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google Play. A lot of listeners out there. I saw one comment that said if you listen on Apple Podcasts, they're not downloading for you anymore. Go search for the Wolfpacker Podcast again. There might be 2 feeds up there. Make sure that you're subscribed to the current feed so that you're getting the new episodes as they drop. You can also always watch us on our YouTube channel. So please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment while you're at it. We appreciate all of it, and all of it helps us out tremendously. So any type of engagement you can give us on YouTube and on podcast is great. Head over to thewolfpacker.com and take advantage of a special deal now. For just $10, you can get premium subscription to thewolfpacker.com as part of the On3 network for just $10. It takes you through the beginning of next college football season, the end of next August 2023. So that's a lot of ground to cover. We're finishing up football season here, but we've still got a quarter of the regular season left, plus bowl season. There's going to be a lot more recruiting in the offseason to keep track of. And also you've got basically the entirety of basketball season there. So a good value there for just $10. Head over to thewolfpacker.com and take advantage of it now. And last but certainly not least, head over to rogueshop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com, rogueshop.com for premium cannabis, CBD, and Delta 8 goods. They've got all kinds of great stuff, cartridges, oils, lotions, edibles, even cannabis itself, CBD, modern science. It's pretty great. And great wellness products. If you suffer from, anxiety and stress, if you have trouble sleeping at night, if you suffer from pain and, chronic inflammation, these products can really help you out tremendously in a natural way. This company, rogueshop.com, founded by a husband and wife. The husband is a disabled veteran that was turned on to these natural products. He dealt with all those symptoms, and was turned on to these natural products, and it's done wonders in his life, so much so that he wanted to start this business to spread the wellness of CBD and Delta 8. So head over to rogueshop.com. Check out some of their great products. They've even got a chat feature on there, and they're also on the message board as well. So if you are a member of the wolfpacker.com, feel free to message the folks over at rogueshop.com on the message board if you have any questions. But some really, really great products. They sent me some. I can vouch for it. I've if you need the guinea pig, I have tried their products. They are great, and I highly recommend that you go check them out. Okay, Matt, let's start off with an upon further review. As we talked about before this podcast, I think we should stick to the hits, this is a podcast. This is an entertainment source for a lot of people. So let's stick to the interesting things. I don't think this Boston College game is one that should stress a lot of Wolfpack fans out. As long as NC State goes out and executes against Boston College, fair to say that I think it should be a double-digit win. And you know what? On senior night, or senior day rather, I think you're going to get a motivated squad. So we can jump into kind of the analysis of what to look for in that game. But first, Matt, NC State now number 16 in the college football playoff poll after beating Wake Forest at home, moving to 7-2 on the season. That's the 3rd highest ranked team out of the ACC, behind Clemson at number 10 and UNC at number 15, now just one spot behind the Tar Heels. And of course, NC State and UNC are going to play at the end of the regular season, so that'll settle itself out naturally, assuming both those teams continue to win out. But Matt, just maybe any thoughts on the new college football playoff poll? It's a nice little jump for the Wolfpack. I think they were 22 last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's a 6-spot jump for a nice home win against a ranked team. But yeah, I mean, any other thoughts on just the Wake Forest game or the ranking itself? How do you want to start this off?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by the rankings because there are a lot of teams that lost in front of NC State this
Yeah.
past week. And then the teams that beat those schools weren't the type that were going to jump NC State. I think, if their school X had beaten Ohio, I mean, not a good example because Northwestern stinks, but let's say Northwestern was the number 24 team in the country and they beat um, Ohio State, then they probably would have leaped over NC State, right? But the team that won the upsets of the teams in front of NC State weren't the type that were going to jump NC State, other than maybe Notre Dame. Did Notre Dame jump over NC State? I can't remember.
No, Notre Dame's still behind NC State. I mean, they've got 3 losses, one of which to Marshall. So
That's true. That's true. So yeah, nobody jumped over NC State. I guess NC State jumped over Tulane. Yeah, quite the jump there. So, but that's about right where I thought it would be. So no surprise. And look, I think they deserve it. Right? I think Wake Forest is a good quality team. You look at Florida State's now in the top 25, and State probably didn't deserve to win. Or they deserved to win the game. I shouldn't say that, but probably, fortunate to come out of that game with a win. And so, yeah, I think that about right where I thought. I want to look back back at the Wake Forest game. It kind of played out. I think our initial reactions were pretty accurate. It was a game that NC State primarily controlled with a dominant third quarter, and that had not been their quarter for NC State this year. But Wake Forest missed some chances early. Then the two teams traded body blows in the second quarter, and then NC State started landing the haymakers in the fourth, and it was too much for Wake Forest to come back. How do you like that boxing analogy right there? But that's basically how I thought it played out.
great analogy. And I mean, I think we really did. I think we covered pretty much all that I had to say, at least from the NC State Wake Forest game and the post game reflections podcast. But it is interesting to see. I mean, Wake Forest back-to-back losses. Not surprising to see them leave the college football playoff poll. Would not be surprised to see them crack the top 25 by the end of the season, assuming that they have the possibility to win out. They've still got UNC on the schedule. In fact, don't they play this upcoming week?
Yep.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
So going to be interesting. I mean, I guess if you're an NC State fan, you probably want to see Wake Forest win that game for the possibility of, I don't think that would send UNC completely out of the rankings at 2 losses. It would just send them more towards the bottom of the top 25. And then, it'd give NC State to, still get another win against a ranked opponent in the poll, but then also have that resume builder with Wake Forest still in it at the end of the year. Florida State also in the top 25. They're, I think, 23. So that's NC State's lone win over a current top 25 team. But, if things shake out the right way, NC State has the opportunity to potentially get a third top 25 win on there if Wake Forest can get back into the poll and UNC is able to remain in the top 25. But, I think for like big picture bowl projections types, it's interesting because NC State's within striking distance of, assuming NC State can win out and things shake out a certain way, NC State could still find itself in a position to maybe crack into a New Year's Six bowl. They'd probably take an implosion of Clemson to maybe fall below, if Clemson maybe.
Even then, if they win an ACC title.
I mean, if Clemson lost to South Carolina at the end of the year, and then maybe NC State beats UNC, but UNC beats Clemson. in the ACC championship game.
Yeah, but then UNC would go to Orange Bowl, and then NC.
Automatically as the
Yeah,
ACC champion.
yeah.
Okay. So basically, it's at large or bust.
At large or bust. And now, could there be a path where you get in as an at large? Maybe very small. It's very small though. I mean, it helped that your AD is the chairman of the committee. I hadn't watched a single episode, by the way. So how's he doing? Have you watched him to see how?
No, I don't watch those shows. I just look at the rankings, and then I watch college football, and like that. I don't need any further explanation.
Yeah. Give me the rankings. Let me know where NC State is, and then I'll take it from there. So yeah, I don't know how he's doing, but because I know in the past those guys get hammered pretty good.
Well, and I also think there's nothing controversial has happened yet. Now that it's setting up for, at the end of the year, once everything plays out, it's going to be interesting to see who ends up in that top four, particularly, how many SEC teams make it. But I mean, top five is pretty self-explanatory. I don't think anybody's denying that Georgia's the number one team. Big Ten's going to figure itself out. TCU's still undefeated. It helps them because Clemson really, took a step back, not a contender for the CFP anymore at this point. I don't think they have any path. So, and Alabama too. So kind of a weird year, but makes it easier on their end to not have to get those teams in somehow, some way. But anyways, let's talk about NC State's upcoming matchup against Boston College, because, bowl destination or not, NC State still has an opportunity to finish the regular season 10-2 if it can win out these next 3 weeks. First of which is going to be the gimme. This is the layup. You got to make this one, and it's going to be at home against a team that is completely outclassed. Matt, I think I saw on Twitter, you tweeted earlier, the Vegas spread has jumped up to around 20 for NC State. It's a big number. In fact, I think, throw out UConn and throw out Charleston Southern, that's the biggest spread for NC State this year. So
and justifiable too. I mean, all due respect, the thing about Boston College is really they didn't have a chance this year because they were replacing a lot of offensive linemen, and then on top of that, they've had 5 offensive linemen need surgeries this season, and they've lost 33 starts to injury this year on the offensive line. And so they just hadn't had a chance. They have a 1,000-yard running back last year who's averaging 3.2 yards a rush this year. And it's not like he all of a sudden forgot how to run the football. It was second team all ACC last year and ran for over 1,000 yards. And they're limited on the perimeter. Jay Flowers is phenomenal. If he wanted, he could have made himself a lot of money on the NIL market. He chose to stay at Boston College. He got 60 catches for 791 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's 38 more catches, almost 500 more yards, and that is half of any other receiver on BC, and that is half of their scoring catches on the season. So it's really kind of a one-man show in the skill department, just because the offensive line is in the state that it is. They're limited with receivers, and then the quarterback, Phil Djokovic, very established, but injured. Was injured last year, hurt his knee recently, didn't play against Duke. Reports were that he did not practice on Tuesday. So you got to figure that means Emmett Morehead, who looked good against Duke, but Duke is not a good defense, passing defense, that is, will get another start. And, redshirt freshman on the road against NC State, confusing defense that's known to get interceptions, tied for the ACC lead in interceptions. It would seem to be a good recipe. If the offense get more and more comfortable with thinking that they can score points, but even if we were not at that point yet, we would say this is still a good game because Boston College is not a prolific offense. In 4 road games this year, they are averaging a total of 8 points per game on the road.
Wow.
They're averaging 260 total yards per game in 4 road games this season. So, and look, when you don't have an offensive line, that's what happens. So, and that's not Coach Halfley's fault or anybody. 5 offensive linemen needing surgery. I mean, what are the odds that would happen to a single team?
It's similar to NC State in 2019.
Yeah. And we saw how 2019 turned out for NC State.
Sometimes there's just years where injuries pile up and, you just kind of just got to find a way to finish the year. You can't, look, you got to play the games, right? This is big, This is big business now. You got to show up either way. So, it stinks for Boston College as a program going into the year that, you looked at this game as maybe, you always, even at the beginning of the year, you felt confident that NC State would probably be favored in this game, but, maybe not to this extent. And NC State is a bad team to have to go face if you're having offensive line issues, considering, we saw against Wake Forest how much they like to blitz.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. BC is only 4 teams. I think there's 131 teams in the FBS. 131. Only 4 teams have given up more sacks this season than Boston College. And it doesn't help that neither Djokovic, who, by the way, had a knee injury, so if he's playing coming back off a knee injury.
He might need to make a business decision this week.
Yeah. Nor Moorhead is not a running quarterback either. So you look at it, you're like, the train's about to come by our office here. If you look at it,
that's going to be NC State's defense on Saturday. Just
there you go, Justin. I like how you did that. You look at it, you just don't see how, maybe Jay Flowers gets one deep once or something like that, but it's hard to see how Boston College is going to score points. The defense is not bad. I know we only spent a whole lot of time on BC, but the defense is not bad. It's not terrible. It's at the middle of the road average productivity for a college this year. It's really smack dead in the middle almost of the country. Very comparable to Wake Forest and Virginia Tech. We saw how MJ Morris did against those 2 defenses. It's funny. In terms of total yards per game, Boston College is one nationally. Boston College is number 60. Virginia Tech is 59. Wake Forest is 64. So when I say they're comparable to the 2 teams MJ Morris just played, I'm being very literally serious. They're like right dead smack where those teams were. You saw, a little bit of bad, a lot of good when MJ Morris played those defenses. Bottom line, they scored 3 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns against Virginia Tech and 3 touchdowns against Wake Forest. So 3 touchdowns should be enough.
Well, here's what 3 touchdowns might be enough, but here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see a game plan that is, we know we can win this game if we score 3 touchdowns and we take care of the football. And I'm not saying you shouldn't take care of the football. Not saying you shouldn't run the ball in the second half, but you got to keep building the confidence of your freshman quarterback. And, I'm not suggesting play with your food here by any means, but in a game that you're outmatching the opponent, in a game reasonably where if you execute, you should win by double digits 99 times out of 100. It's another great opportunity to get a young freshman quarterback game reps and get him continue to build his confidence for, 2 games coming up where he's going to be needed. That offense is going to need to click the last 2 weeks against Louisville and North Carolina, 2 teams that are, able to put some points up on the board. So that's what I don't want to see. I want to see the continued approach like we've seen the past 5 quarters of NC State offensive football, which is, a nice mixture of things. But it's also trusting your young quarterback to throw the ball downfield in a manner that, by the way, he still has yet to throw an interception. So, knock on wood, obviously. but he's shown that you can trust him to throw the ball deep and not necessarily put it into danger. So yeah, it's my only hope for this game, other than NC State winning by double digits and moving on to next week, so we can start talking about a little bit more interesting football and hopefully a nice crowd for senior night. Going to be a big day for a lot of those guys. So
interesting group of guys, by the way, walking. I kind of broke it down on a premium story with a little bit of analysis of what you could maybe expect. But you're talking about Devin Leary, you're talking about Drake Thomas, you're talking about Peyton Wilson, Shaheem Battle, Devin Carter, even the long snappers, Joe Simcoe. These are all guys that have eligibility remaining who are choosing to walk on senior day. That doesn't mean they've decided. Drake Thomas explicitly said he had not decided yet, but it's kind of a just in case. But it gives you an idea of what guys are considering moving on after this season, and what guys like a Savion Jackson and a Jordan Houston and some of those guys that are not walking. So it would seem to imply they've already decided they're going to take advantage of their super senior season. So
great point. I don't think there's really any surprises there.
Shaheem Battle probably would have been the one that surprised me. The redshirt sophomore, fourth year redshirt sophomore, but
having a great season though.
Missed a couple games with an injury, and he was having a good season. Did have the tough game against Virginia Tech when he got beaten a couple times deep in that game.
When the bag is there, though, just saying.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the only one that, just because he's a redshirt sophomore and he's got a couple of years, kind of.
Yeah. So. Well, I wanted to leave some time. I know we're pressed for time on this podcast due to some recording technical things behind the scenes, but I did want to leave some time to talk about NC State basketball. Starting off the season 1-0, NC State picks up a 99-50 win over Austin Peay in PNC Arena, and just my initial thoughts, Matt. Liked what I saw on the floor on Monday night a lot more than what I became accustomed to seeing last year. That was a team that shared the basketball. That was a team that ran at a fast up-tempo pace. Like I thought, the reputation of Kevin Keats has historically been. And it was a team that looked interested on the defensive end of the basketball, not just, chilling. And it's a team that I don't think is going to finish last place in the ACC. That's for damn sure. In fact, I look, it's Austin Peay. They should have beaten them a bit bad, but you look across the board in the ACC and not everybody took care of business. If you wanted to compare around the league, I mean, maybe NC State didn't have the toughest opponent off the bat, but NC State certainly came out of the gate and took care of business better than most in the ACC. And there's obviously a lot of season to play. I don't think we're going to learn too much about this team until Thanksgiving week, when they go play Kansas and, opportunity to play some other Division I teams, or excuse me, Power 5 caliber tournament teams. But yeah, I mean, am I being unreasonably optimistic out of the gate? Oh yeah, by the way, Terquavion Smith looks like an ACC Player of the Year type. It
was good, Terquavion. Yeah. How consistent can that be, right? That's the big question.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be a lot more consistent with Jarkel Joyner in the backcourt with him. You
know me, I've been preaching the drumbeat of Kevin Keats. Probably been listening to us, I think, Justin. I know you listen to our podcast every time and heard me talk about the value of being an older team in college basketball. I'm a big believer in it. I've been a big believer in it. I don't think the one and done is the best way to go. I think you're better off being an old team. I think that's been proven over time. You can tell this is an old team. Yeah. I'll also say this. You can tell this is a team that went to the Bahamas and played a couple of exhibition games in August against some older guys, played a secret scrimmage against Davidson, and had a warm-up act against Leeds McCray. I think that's why you saw a lot cleaner presentation, a lot more, you know, they essentially had a 2-week head start on everybody. So that matters. So I think it would not surprise me if for a couple of weeks NC State looks really good because of that. And that may be a little misleading, but it may not be. I think this team clearly, if healthy, is going to be better than last year's team. Yeah, you mentioned they were last in the ACC. That's quite a jump to try to get into bubble territory or something of that nature for the NCAA tournament. But the backcourt there, I mean, the depth is a question mark. I have real question marks about the depth, but the starting backcourt is there. And they have some size. And I really like Jack Clark, kind of that third piece of the equation behind Terquavion Smith and Jarkel Joyner. So I was impressed, quite frankly. I'm far more impressed than I was obviously last year against Bucknell. Manny Bates got hurt, and that was not a good looking performance. You may remember, Justin, you were there the COVID year. First game, I came out like, I don't know about this team. You know, with Cam Hayes and Shaquille Moore were freshmen, and I was a little not so sure about that team. So this is the first team in a while that came out of that first game going, okay.
Yeah.
Opponent's not that good. You mentioned they're not that good. And they had the advantage of getting all those warm-up acts to kind of get, you know, together more on the court. I understand that, but I thought there was a lot to like. I really did. I said in our premium chat, I think they're top half of the ACC team. I've always kind of had that sneaky feeling, but it's also
it's college basketball, man. In 2022,
Wake Forest did, right?
I mean, you can go from dog doo-doo to tournament team in a year. Just hit. I mean, it's a completely new team. It's a completely new team with really, I mean, it looks like right now the only returning guys in the rotation from last year are Terquavion Smith and Casey Morsell. Yes, Ebenezer DeWan are still on this team. Yes, Breon Pass still on this team. Breon Pass really wasn't a regular member of the rotation last year. Ernest Ross really never really cracked the rotation. He had a couple stretches last year, but yeah, he battled injuries. And DeWan was a main part of the rotation. But if this tells you anything, how different this team is, Ebenezer DeWan, the best player in NC State's front court last season, 4 minutes in game one. And, I don't think that's because he's regressed. I think that's because you've got a couple grown butt men. Sorry to the listeners that listen to their kids, but, I'm sure you've heard worse at PNC Arena. Anyways, Mahoricic and DJ Burns conditioning is going to be a work in progress, but he's got a smooth jumper, and there's some big bodies at least that, you're going to need those guys when it comes to ACC play. We'll see how they look against some of the more elite big men, but definitely.
If DJ Burns, my last thought, if he could lose about 50 pounds, how good could he be? I mean, he could really be All-American. But as it is
it last year of eligibility?
He's one of those that technically a senior, but he could use a super senior option, I believe. I think Mahoricic and Joyner may be the two that this is it.
Okay.
For them.
Joyner looks every bit the part of.
Yeah, and if you're on the court like I was, he carries himself like an old guy who feels like he's playing with a bunch of younger kids out there. You know what I mean? He's a natural born leader. And you kind of feel like he had a presence about him on the court. So that was pretty impressive to see.
Well, I hope I'm not a sucker, but I'm excited to watch more NC State men's basketball this year. And
that's good life advice, by the way. Don't be a sucker.
Don't be a sucker. That's right. Well, Look, I'm cautiously optimistic. We gotta get, it's way early in the college basketball season. Let's get to the end of the year and see how we feel. But look, I'm gonna be making time Thanksgiving week to make sure that I'm watching this Wolfpack team go up against some of these big dogs. But anyways, we've got to close out this podcast, Matt. So I'm gonna wrap it up. Tune in this weekend. We'll have a post-game reflections on NC State and Boston College. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Play. Plus, you can always watch us on YouTube, where you should subscribe to our YouTube channel, give this video a thumbs up, and drop a comment while you're at it. Head over to thewolfpacker.com. Take advantage of a special deal going on right now for just $10. You can get premium subscription to thewolfpacker.com as part of the On3 network for just $10. That's going to take you through the beginning of next college football season. So the end of August 2023. We already had some basketball talk. Basketball season's just starting. Football season, we've got a quarter of the way to go in the regular season. Great time to take advantage of that deal. Just $10. You're going to get a lot of content for your money. Go follow us on social media at the Wolfpacker on Twitter is our main account, at Justin H. Will, if you want to give me a follow, and give us a like on Facebook, NC State Wolfpack on the wolfpacker.com. Last but certainly not least, head over to rogueshop.com, rogueshop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com for your premium CBD and Delta 8 cannabis goods. They've got all kinds of great products, edibles, tinctures, oils, cartridges, lotions, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of mediums to help you get the wellness from your cannabis products that you need, whether you suffer from stress and anxiety, you have trouble sleeping at night, you suffer from chronic pain and inflammation. These are some great natural products that can really help you out with some of those things. I know, we all at least suffer from one of those things. So it's a small business founded by a husband and wife. The husband is a disabled veteran that suffered from chronic pain, trouble sleeping at night, stress and anxiety. Went the natural route. Once he was turned onto these products, changed his life for the better, so much so that he wanted to start this business and share it with all the good folks that are listening to this podcast. So they're a proud sponsor of the Wolfpacker Podcast. We're proud to have them. So if you support us and, whether you're a first-time user or you're an experienced CBD and Delta 8 user, you should definitely go check out rogueshop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com. All right, Matt, that's going to do it for this podcast. I'm Justin Williams for Matt Carter. This has been the Wolfpacker Podcast.